Community reaction is coming in after President Cyril Ramaphosa announced that South African Defence Force will be deployed to assist police in tracking gang violence in the Western Cape. While government says the SANDF will act as a force multiplier to stabilise crime hotspots, residents in some of the province's most affected areas have mixed views on what soldiers on the ground will mean for their safety. Newzroom Afrika's Nasiphi joins us live for more. Nasiphi, walk us through some of these fears that members of these various communities have around the presence of SANDF soldiers.
Well, Hugo, what I'll tell you is that we are still getting the pulse on the residents' reaction to the announcement by the President on Thursday that the Army or the South African Defence Force troops will be deployed in the Western Cape and Gauteng. In the Western Cape, specifically zoning in on the scourge of gang and gun violence. And some of the concerns or the reaction is that many or some welcome the deployment and others have questions regarding that particular deployment, as we know that the SANDF will be forming a part of the operations as a force multiplier when it comes to operating in some gang-prone areas, such as the area where we are, which is Mitchell's Plain. And those concerns is how long the SANDF is going to be deployed for, but also what is their role going to be when it comes to these operations that will be conducted. As yesterday we heard from the President that the Army is not necessarily trained to interact with civilians, but trained to kill. So those are also some of the concerns that we have heard from residents that are living in these areas. However, as much as they welcome the announcement by the President, there are also these concerns. But to talk to us more, I am joined by Peter van Sensi, who is a pastor but also a resident in places like Beacon Valley that have seen an increased number of shootings in a space of about a year. But we know that Mitchell's Plain has been gang-prone for over a decade now. But give us a sense and pulse of this community when it comes to crime and gangsterism.
Okay, yeah, so Beacon Valley is one of the areas in Mitchell's Plain that's also, we actually had a surge in gang violence in our area in recent months. Since last year, we've seen a number of our people, young people, and also gang members being murdered here in Beacon Valley itself. The place where we are standing is also where where bodies have been picked up in Beacon Valley. So yeah, I think most people will welcome the deployment of the South African Army, but we also think that it's almost not too late. It's too late for a number of young people who died on our streets, innocent young people. But also it feels more like a political ploy to be exact. We feel that they've waited to deploy the army based on how close we're getting to the election. So it's almost like as people, we feel more like pawns in the hands of our ruling party than citizens that's being loved and cared for by their government.
Would you say that there needed to be some sort of consultation regarding this announcement, or to get a sense from communities what it is that they want or need when it comes to quelling the scourge of gang violence?
Yes, definitely. I think they needed to engage more with the communities if we want to make a difference when it comes to gang violence, is to really work with the community itself, because we are the people living here. We see what is happening. We need to live through the gunshots and things like that. We see our young people traumatized by what is happening in the areas. So I think from government side, it was for them to really engage with us surrounding the deployment of the army. It's something we welcome, but obviously not in the way they did it. And people will say that If they deploy, then the people is unhappy. If they don't deploy, then the people is unhappy. But it shouldn't be as a tactic for elections. It should be because you love the people.
I mean, you were saying that this particular field has, at some stages, turned into battlegrounds. When was the last time you heard gunshots being fired in this area?
Yeah, just recently, yesterday, we had last week. We had in our church we had a funeral, and the church around the corner there was 2 funerals of gang members that was buried, and that is 3 people in a space of 1 week. So yeah, it's still very rife in our area, the gang wars.
So you're saying that while we're standing here, is it possible that perhaps shots could go off?
Anything is possible. You're never sure when it will happen, and there's always sometimes there's a sign where you will see, okay, guys is running up and down. There's a bit of unrest in the community, and sometimes it's out of the blue. You just hear gunshots going off.
I mean, you've been a victim of gang violence. You lost your nephew, Malachi, was quite young at the time. What is it that you say that the community of Beacon Valley or Mitchells Plain needs when it comes to containing the scourge of gang violence that has been long-standing?
So what we've done as the Malachi Foundation, with the killing of Malachi, we started the foundation. So what we've done, we had a program, a skills development program. We're working with our young people, trying to get them off the streets, trying to give them something to do. We've seen there's a simple thing like not having an ID is what causes young boys to move away from a safe environment into gangsterism. So we're trying to help young men who don't have IDs. We're trying to help them get their IDs. We have had some good success stories in our first program that we ran last year. Some even got jobs, and so I think we really need to engage the young people. That is very important. We need to help them and make sure that they have something to do other than gangsterism.
While the announcement has been made, we won't be seeing the troops, in the next coming days. There's still a plan that is going to be devised by the Minister of Police and also Defence. What would you say to government when they are making these plans? What should they be considering? Coming from a resident now that's living in an area where gunshots can go off at any time.
Yeah, we would like them to have something for our young people. Like jobs is a major problem. Helping our young kids, like you have young people who want to study further, they can't study. So having things for them, I think that is where we need to focus, is really focus on our young people in helping them get the necessary support. Our family environment is not necessarily skilled in helping their own. So we really need government to step up and help our young people.
We've had the army before deployed in the Western Cape in 2019, if I'm correct. They were deployed in areas like Mitchells Plain. Did it assist in any way in bringing down the crime levels?
I think it assists for a short period of time, and once, because it's not a permanent solution. It's almost like just to bring a calm for a period of time, but it's not a permanent solution. So we end up, once they move back, we end up having the same problem over and over, because the social economical areas in the young people's lives is not met. They're not helped in that way. So yeah, so it will help for a short period of time, but once they move back, we're back to square one, where we have those gang wars.
How bad is the situation? I mean, you speak about shooting can go off at any time, but if you could contextualize for somebody maybe living in Gauteng that does not understand the day-to-day living in Mitchells Plain.
Yeah, so to put it in words, it's a dramatic life to live, because you never know when you could be a victim of a stray bullet or something. So even something simple as walking to the shop could be the end of your life. So So yeah, it's not easy living in an environment like that. But that is where we live, and that's why we hope that government come up with lasting solutions and not just short-term solutions like deploying the army.
And from your end, what could be an implementable, lasting solution? I mean, in the period where we'll have the deployment of the army, what kind of solutions can the police or government look into? The implementable solution.
Yeah, I think what is important is it's creating jobs. I think that is a good place to start, sorting out our education system, because our education system is not helping our young people. We have a lot of our colored community, if I can say it like that, that we have a lot of our young people who drop out of school. So we need to sort out our education system and how it works. I think that is a good place to start, Nasiphi.
We'll have to leave it there. Peter van Sensi, a resident in Beacon Valley. And Hugo, just listening to him speak, mixed reactions when it comes to the deployment of the army on the Cape Flats, as we heard that announcement by the president on Thursday. However, you know, it's a sentiment that was shared with a guest that we spoke to earlier on as well, that the core issue in areas such as Beacon Valley, or rather on the Cape Flats, is the lack of access to services, but also youth unemployment that sees an escalation when it comes to crime. So these two guests that have not had a conversation with each other, both saying that in the interim, the deployment of the army is a short-term solution to what they are currently faced with, their lived reality. But beyond that, they want a whole-of-government approach in looking at solutions that can be implemented in gang-prone communities and having them implemented immediately. One of those being looking at education and ensuring that the school retention rate remains, but also to have jobs for the youth to get them off the street as well.
Nasiphi Summer in the Western Cape, summarising for us sentiments from various individuals that live in this area around the deployment, potential deployment of SANDF troops, particularly in Mitchell's Plain, to deal with gang violence. And that the real issue is not as much the violence as it is the unavailability of jobs as the core issue.